What's really happening is that someone is saying, let's save the planet, and someone is saying, no. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary and today I am ready with another greenwashing video. We are both going to react to some greenwashing that I have seen recently. Things that have infuriated me, things you have probably already seen a little bit about if you follow any type of sustainability movement, platform, anti-fast fashion, buzzwords, spoiler alert. It's the Sheen influencer trip. But we are also going to talk about so much more. And I actually asked you guys on Instagram if you had any specific questions or thoughts about greenwashing that you would like me to address in this video as well. So without further ado, let's get into the questions that you guys asked. The first question, which I think is a brilliant way to start this, is how do you avoid or recognize greenwashing? And I have talked about greenwashing for a hot second on this channel. I have a video about the different types of greenwashing because there are both very direct types of greenwashing, there are indirect types of greenwashing, because overall the concept is a very broad term, which generally just refers to ways and tactics with which a company can mislead consumers into believing that the product that they are selling is more green, more conscious, more sustainable, etc. than it actually is. And there are tons of ways of doing this. You can lie, but you can also insinuate. And we're going to talk about some of this today. So one of the first things that I always look for, one of the first things I do when I try to figure out if something is greenwashing or not, is that I ask how. This is eco-friendly, or this is future-friendly, or this is conscious, or this is natural, or all these type of vague sounding buzzwords you can just use. We're gonna come back to that in a second as well. But asking how is this sustainable? Is it backed up by data? How do you know this? What did you do? Asking general questions about why and how they got to that conclusion. If there isn't any follow-up, it's probably greenwashing. Also, if a company's only green action is carbon offsetting, it's probably greenwashing. If a company is using terms like net zero and carbon neutral without changing anything in their actual own supply chain and value chain, it's probably greenwashing. If one of their major green actions include reducing waste at the office, it's probably greenwashing. If the only green action is eco-themed packaging, it's probably greenwashing. If the only green action is energy efficiency, that's just the standard law in so many countries, so it's probably just greenwashing. If a company claims that their products are fair or organic but without any certifications to prove it, it's probably greenwashing. Low key, and this is not always the case, but statistically speaking, if a company is referring to their product as sustainable, it's probably greenwashing. I don't know, I've heard so many consultants and experts and spokespeople say that if you have an actual sustainable product, don't call it sustainable. It's bad juju at this point in time. So just don't call it sustainable. I will link the video about the different types of greenwashing down below because that is very effective in terms of figuring out how to avoid it and how to recognize it. The next question is there any laws or regulations that makes it difficult to greenwash or that sort of prohibits it? And there is. They're not terribly effective. There are also new laws and new legislation being implemented that I'm very excited about that hopefully will make it a lot more difficult for companies to mislead consumers. Overall, I think that in the future, from now on, going forward, that's what the future means. We are going to see a lot more legislation that makes this really difficult for companies to do. That makes it so as you cannot just say something is future friendly because it means nothing. Yet it can be a defining factor in the decision-making process of consumers, whether or not they're buying a product based on the vibes. I kind of love this question, how many companies greenwash? Because it's a good question. How often does this actually happen? And I have some statistics here for you that's deeply concerning. So 59% of all claims made by European and UK based fashion brands are misleading. Over half, the bar's in hell. Furthermore, the same amount, 59% of the researched subject for this study did not have accessible information that supported their claims, and 42% of the claims are believed to be exaggerated or straight up false. Around 68% of US executives believe that the company that they're in are guilty of greenwashing. almost 70%. And 2/3 of the questioned executives questioned whether or not their company's sustainability efforts were actually genuine. Alrighty then, when it comes to certifications to look for, there are a few options that I always think makes it a lot more likely that what is happening is actually really genuine. There's the B Corp certification. That's a really good start. There's also GOTS, the Global Organic Textile Standard, and it's especially good to look for GOTS certification when you're trying to figure out what kind of fashion brand to support and buy from. That's a really good one as well. But I also have 2 videos about different types of certifications and certifications, because not all certifications are created equally. And while some are amazing, third-party certifying bodies with objective standards, other certifications are created by the brand themselves to look better. I'm looking at you, IKEA. Anyway, I'll leave all of this down below so you can go check it out there. Let's get into the greenwashing I want to react to in this video. Now, this company actually reached out to me in my email. There are a million of these types of products and brands out there. This is an eco web shop that sells primarily bamboo products. And this is something that you can find at literally any digital street corner. They are flipping everywhere. Bamboo increased in popularity so fast, especially in the West, because of its potential amazing qualities. Bamboo is not a type of wood, it's a type of grass, and it has the potential to grow completely without fertilizers, without pesticides, without herbicides. It can grow in places where trees cannot grow, so you don't need to cut trees down to grow bamboo. And the type of bamboo that we usually use is not the same type as the panda likes to eat. So just getting that out of the way. However, these are potential qualities, and so many studies find that even though this is technically true, a lot of the farming practices and agricultural practices related to bamboo does not utilize those qualities. They still cut down trees, they still use fertilizer, they still use pesticides, they still use herbicides, and they still use artificial watering systems, even though it's not technically necessary. But you do get a lot more product that way. So even though there are potential good qualities in bamboo, something just being made out of bamboo in and of itself isn't amazing. Now, that is the premise with which I open up this website. And the first thing I see is a huge banner. And the banner reads 100% plant-based, 0% landfill, 100% eco-soul. I am over the moon. 100% plant-based, yeah, it's bamboo. So in this case, it doesn't really mean anything. Cotton is also 100% plant-based, but that doesn't take away from the fact that cotton is a massively destructive industry. And unless we are looking at organic cotton or recycled cotton, it is extremely detrimental to keep producing cotton. So even though something is plant-based, it can still be really, really bad for the planet. Using plant-based as sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card is just so lazy, in my opinion. 0% landfill, I also don't know what that means specifically, because is this the company not sending anything to landfill? Is it you don't have to send anything to landfill? This doesn't mean anything. It sounds more like a promise, and it's not really elaborated further on the website. So they know that people that search for bamboo, plant-based, zero waste types of products are very keen on avoiding things going to landfill. So putting this on a big banner might be a really good tactic, except that it makes me think that this is all bogus. So, and 100% eco-soul, I don't know what that means. And I don't care. We are gonna move further down the website because there's another thing that I am dying to show you. So whenever I'm skeptical about a brand, I go straight to their Our Mission page to see how they describe their own sustainability efforts. Accelerate the world's transition to a sustainable lifestyle by creating eco-friendly goods for all from Earth's most renewable resources. So if we're looking at the greenwashing legislation that is being rolled out, especially in the EU, one of the things that you really should avoid doing is calling your product sustainable overall. Because when it comes to consumer sustainability, the things that we do, the things we as consumers and individuals call sustainability can be vague, can be abstract, can be many different things. But when we talk about production sustainability, when we're talking about a company or product, what sustainability means isn't abstract at all, actually. There's a very clear definition, and I have the hardest time believing that they actually fit into this description. Do you want to hear the definition? Sustainable development means meeting the needs of the present while ensuring future generations can meet their own needs. That's the definition. I don't necessarily think that non-certified bamboo products fit into this description. And now I said the bamboo wasn't certified. They do have two types of certifications. They have a USDA certified bio-based product, and they also have a BPI compostable certification, which means that the products can break down in an industrial compost, but not in your home compost. So yeah, nothing about the agricultural practices of how this bamboo was actually made. But that doesn't surprise me at all, because these products I have seen on so many dropship platforms as well, because it's the same fucking shit you see everywhere, and it's not produced very sustainably, but it is a very easy to market as such. Anyway, moving on to something a lot more obvious, because Sheen invited some influencers on a trip, and boy was that a mistake. So I don't know if you've been following this situation. It's been all over my For You pages and Explore pages, basically everywhere I've looked for the past few weeks. Because there was especially one video where an influencer was shown around the premise of a factory. It was very clearly very staged. The factory was very glamorous, very high-tech, very all these things. And the influencer said something about the rumors that Sheen was actually producing things in a really poor manner, just went to show that people are not thinking for themselves and doing their own research. It was all a shit show. Funny thing is, I've made a video about Sheen where one of the first things we established is that in contrast to other fast fashion brands, Sheen doesn't have a couple of factories. Sheen is using thousands of factories, producing things all over China, which makes traceability in their supply chain basically impossible. And there are so many undercover journalists that have shown again and again that these people working in these thousands of factories are working under extremely dangerous working conditions and are not getting paid and compensated properly, and are working extremely long hours with no rights whatsoever. I think one of the best things that this influencer in her video, which I think has been taken down, and I actually also think she made a follow-up video where she talked about the fact that this trip and the promoting of Shein was a big mistake for her. She called herself an investigative journalist whilst going on a trip that was staged by the people she was investigating. And I think there is a certain level of irony in calling yourself an investigative journalist whilst going in through the front door. But I digress. Now, the last company I want to talk about, I didn't really know was a big thing, but apparently it's growing significantly and pretty quickly as well. They've sent me several emails and I just thought it was some little shit company, but apparently this is growing and it's becoming a big thing. It's Teemo, or Teemo? It's basically just Wish, but one more time. I cannot find a significant difference between Teemo and Wish. The concept is the same. You can buy things for $1 or less, or sometimes more, but overall, very cheap products. And do they have sustainability lingo on their website? Oh yes, they do. Oh yes, they do. So the lingo on Teemo's website is a pretty good guideline as to what not to do when trying to describe efforts, or efforts that definitely do not exist. There is, and I think it's very important to preface this, no way of producing sustainable and ethical products that take human lives and human rights into account, as well as the planet and resources. There's no way to produce those things at these price points. It doesn't happen, it doesn't exist, it's impossible. So these are the values of Teemo: empowerment, integrity, inclusion and diversity, and socially responsible. Love to see it. Everyone deserves to live the life they dream of having. Honest, ethical, trustworthy. Respect and embrace differences, and do good for the world. Obviously, this means nothing. That was just the tip of the iceberg. I have more, because they have a Q&A site and someone asked whether or not their products are sustainable. What does Teemo do to be more sustainable? And this is their reply. Social responsibility is one of Teemo's core values. One of the ways that we show our commitment is through environmental sustainability. For every delivery made on Teemo, we carbon offset emissions so that we compensate for our carbon footprint and do our part to protect the planet. Well, that's a really funny way of putting it, because famously when you carbon offset, you buy action from somebody else. I have a whole video, and I've said this many times in this video, I am aware, but I do have a video about carbon offsetting, so if you're curious about what that even means, you can go and watch that video. Basically what carbon offsetting is, that it's emission real estate. So when you buy carbon offsetting, you support an initiative, or you support someone who then is the broker of an initiative that is then resulted in some potential emissions or potential lack of emissions. And you basically buy whatever they're doing or whatever they are going to do. And the most common way of doing this is by planting trees. Now, planting trees is the most common way of carbon offsetting. It is also, fun fact, the least effective, because in order for trees to actually have an impact, they need to be tended to and taken care of for decades before they have any actual real impact. So most carbon offsetters are buying potentially saved emissions in 30 years. That is basically useless. It also means that you are not doing anything yourself. But when you carbon offset and you outsource the sustainability initiative to someone else, really, you are once again not doing anything in your own value chain. You are paying someone else to do something down the line at one point. This is not something that surprises me in the least, that the only thing that these types of companies can point towards is how they paid other people to be more sustainable, when in fact that also really doesn't change anything. But they're not doing anything in their own company, in their own supply chain, in their own value chain, with their own products to actually be more sustainable. So they're not doing their part for the planet, in fact. I just really wanted to make that abundantly clear. Anyway, this was everything I could find on Teemo's website, so obviously it's a little bit sparse, but I really wanted to go over it as well and also mention them in a video, and specifically in a video where I get to thoroughly say that this is an awful company and I don't think anyone should be supporting them. Just like Wish and Sheen and AliExpress, and there are definitely more that I cannot come up with right now, but they're all really bad for the environment. But it's very important to continuously hold them accountable for this shitty type of behavior. And also, if you want to do something to hold them accountable even further, voting is actually one of the best things that you can do, because having policymakers that favor people and planet over profit is extremely important. And the only way these people will get to office is by voting for them. So there's that. Anyway, that was it for this video. I hope that you guys liked it. If you did, leave me a comment down below and let me know if you have any other greenwashing things that you would like me to react to. Any other questions, let's talk about them. Perhaps make a part 2 where we just sit down and talk about these sort of things. I could expand on this so much more. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Please subscribe to my channel. That would absolutely make my day. And have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching. Take really good care of yourselves. Until next time. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!